The room was filled with the clinking of champagne flutes and polite chatter. My grandniece, Chloe, stood at the center of the party, looking radiant in a silk gown that matched her ambition. Around her neck sat the Star of Eleanor, a 40-carat diamond necklace my late wife wore on our 50th anniversary. It sparkled under the chandelier, throwing rainbows across the ceiling. "It's breathtaking," a wealthy collector whispered to Chloe. "Is it vintage?" "It's a family heirloom," Chloe beamed, touching the central stone. "My great-aunt left it to me. I'm just so honored to wear it tonight for the appraisal." I watched her from my armchair in the corner. I sipped my ginger ale. I didn't smile. I reached into my pocket and clicked a small switch on a handheld device. It was a long-wave ultraviolet flashlight used by gemologists to check fluorescence. "Dim the lights," I ordered. My voice, roughened by 74 years of hard negotiation and cigar smoke, cut through the party noise. A confused waiter hurried to the dimmer switch. The room plunged into darkness. "Grand Uncle Artie?" Chloe's voice trembled slightly in the dark. "What are you doing? You're scaring the guests." "Just checking the provenance, my dear," I said. I aimed the UV beam directly at her neck. Natural diamonds, about 30% of them, emit a soft blue glow under ultraviolet light. It's called fluorescence. Eleanor's necklace was famous for its strong blue reaction. But the stones around Chloe's neck didn't glow blue. They remained dark, absorbing the light like black holes, or rather like high-quality cubic zirconia. "Interesting," I said into the silence. "Glass doesn't glow." The guests gasped. Before I explain how Chloe tried to talk her way out of that one, and the look on her boyfriend's face when I pulled out the thermal probe, you need to understand the history of that necklace, and you need to understand that you can fool a lover, you can fool a family, but you can never, ever fool a gemologist with a loop. If you appreciate the difference between a rock and a gem, and you hate a thief who wears a fake smile, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's appraise this situation. My name is Arthur Stone. In the Diamond District, they called me The Loop. For 40 years, I was the chief appraiser for one of the largest insurance firms in London. I didn't deal in engagement rings. I dealt in museum pieces, crown jewels, assets that required armed guards to transport. I have spent my life staring at carbon pressurized by the Earth for 1 billion years. I know inclusions, I know facets. I can spot a heat-treated ruby from across a dinner table. Retirement brought me back to the States, to a quiet estate in Connecticut. My wife, Eleanor, passed away 3 years ago. She was the only thing more precious to me than the stones in my safe. When she died, the house went quiet. My collection, her collection, stayed in the wall safe behind the portrait in the library. I kept it because it reminded me of her. I didn't wear it, I just cleaned it. Then Chloe arrived. Chloe is my brother's granddaughter. I hadn't seen her since she was in braces. She reconnected with me 6 months ago on Facebook. She was 25, an influencer, whatever that meant. She posted photos of avocado toast and sunsets. "Uncle Artie," she messaged, "I'm in town. Can I visit?" I was lonely. I said yes. She showed up with a ring light and a suitcase. She was charming. She made me tea. She asked about Eleanor. She seemed genuinely interested in my stories about the heist in Antwerp in '88. "It's so sad you live here alone with all these beautiful things," she said one afternoon, looking at the portrait of Eleanor wearing the star necklace. "They should be seen, and Eleanor would want them to be enjoyed." I hesitated. "They're safe where they are." "But I could organize them for you, catalog them, take pictures for the insurance update. You said your arthritis makes it hard to handle the small pieces." She was right. My hands shook. Opening the heavy safe door was a chore. Cleaning the tiny clasps was painful. "Okay," I relented. "You can help me clean them." For 3 months, it seemed fine. We would open the safe on Sundays. Chloe would wear white cotton gloves. She would polish the gold. She would ooh and ah over the sapphires and emeralds. She introduced me to her boyfriend, Jason, a private jeweler, she called him. He was slick, too polished, but he knew his cuts. I started to trust her. I started to think of her as the daughter I never had. But a gemologist never stops testing. It happened last Tuesday. It was Eleanor's birthday. I unlocked the safe to take out her solitaire engagement ring. It was a 3-carat D flawless cushion cut, the most perfect stone I ever bought. I took it to my desk, I put on my viscosity, lit the lamp, and picked up my 10x magnification loupe. I wanted to feel the fire inside the stone. I wanted to feel close to her. I focused the lens. I stopped breathing. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't Eleanor's diamond. It was moissanite, synthetic silicon carbide, a very good fake, probably worth $500. But the ring setting was original. The scratches on the gold band were the same. Someone had pried open the prongs, removed my diamond, replaced it with a lab-grown fake, and reseated it. There were only 3 people with the combination to the safe: me, my lawyer, and Chloe. I sat there in the dark study, holding the fake ring. The grief of losing Eleanor washed over me again, fresh and sharp, but this time it was mixed with a cold, hard rage. She hadn't stolen a rock, she had stolen a memory. She had desecrated the symbol of 50 years of marriage. I put the loupe down. I didn't call the police. Police take reports, they file insurance claims. They don't recover stones sold on the black market. I needed to know how much she had taken, and I needed to know where my wife's soul was being fenced. The next morning, I told Chloe I wasn't feeling well. I told her I would spend the day in bed. As soon as she drove off in her leased Mercedes to meet a sponsor, I got out of bed. I locked the library doors. I spent 6 hours auditing the safe. My hands trembled, but my eyes did not fail me. It was a massacre. The Art Deco emerald brooch, fake. The Tiffany sapphire studs, synthetic spinels. The Cartier tennis bracelet, cubic zirconia. I kept a spreadsheet. By 2 p.m., the total loss was $1.5 million. She had gutted 80% of the collection, replacing each piece with a replica so convincing it would fool anyone but an expert. It was professional work. Swapping stones without damaging the vintage settings requires specialized tools, a prong pusher, a gem claw, and a steady hand. Chloe was an influencer. She couldn't thread a needle. She wasn't doing this alone. I thought of Jason, the boyfriend, the private jeweler. I needed to trace the stones. Unique gems leave a trail if you know where to look. They end up in auctions, high-end pawn shops, or custom orders for shady clients. I picked up the phone. I called Saul. Saul Gold had run the biggest pawn brokerage in New York for 30 years before moving to a quiet storefront in Stamford. He handled the stuff that was too hot for Christie's, but too valuable for a strip mall. We went way back. "Artie," Saul's voice rasped over the line, "to what do I owe you the pleasure? You selling the solitaire?" "It's already sold, Saul," I said grimly, "just not by me." I explained the situation, the fake ring, Chloe, the boyfriend. "Jason?" Saul paused. "Does he go by Jason V, slick hair, wears loafers without socks?" "That's him." "I know him," Saul said. "He's a bench jeweler for Jersey. Lost his license for swapping stones in repair jobs. He's a hack, but he's good with settings." "I need to know where they're dumping the goods," I said. "If they flood the market, the prices tank. They'll be careful." "Send me the GIA report numbers," Saul commanded. "I'll put the word out on the wire. If a 3-carat cushion with your serial number pops up in Tel Aviv or Hong Kong, we'll know." I hung up. I sat in my library, surrounded by the ghosts of my collection. I looked at the portrait of Eleanor. She looked disappointed. "I know," I said. "I let a fox into the hen house." But self-pity wasn't going to get the diamonds back. Strategy would.
Chloe returned at 5 p.m. She breezed into the library, looking cheerful.
She dropped a shopping bag on the sofa. "I brought sushi," she announced. "How are you feeling, Uncle Artie?" "Better," I said, watching her carefully. "Did you have a good shoot?" "Amazing," she gushed. "My photographer loves the aesthetic. Oh, speaking of shoots, Jason thinks we should host an appraisal party. Invite some serious collectors. Get the collection valued for auction, insurance purposes." "An auction?" I asked, feigning interest. "Yes, think about it." She sat next to me, taking my hand. "Why keep all this locked away? You could sell a few pieces, travel, enjoy your life. Jason knows a buyer who's flying in from Dubai. He pays cash." I saw the game instantly. The appraisal party was the exit strategy. They would bring in a fake buyer, likely an accomplice. They would buy the fake collection for a massive sum on paper, launder the money, and leave me with a check that would bounce or a wire transfer that would disappear. Or worse, they would sell the remaining real pieces to the mark, claim they were stolen during the party, and cash out on the insurance policy too. "An appraisal party," I mused. "That sounds lively." "It will be fun," Chloe squeezed my hand. "Friday night? Just intimate, champagne, canapes." "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." Chloe squealed and hugged me. She pulled her phone out to text Jason. While she was distracted, I noticed something sticking out of her makeup bag, which was sitting open on the coffee table, a metallic tool handle. "I need to use the restroom," I said, standing up. I walked past the table. I bumped it clumsily with my cane. The makeup bag spilled, lipsticks rolled onto the floor, and a small steel tool clattered onto the wood. It was a gem-set prong opener. "Oh, clumsy me," I apologized, leaning down. "No, Uncle, I got it." Chloe dove for the tool, snatching it up before I could touch it. Her face was flushed. "What is that?" I asked. "It looks like a dentist's pick." "It's for my cuticles," she lied, shoving it deep into the bag. "Manicure stuff." "Ah," I nodded. "Dental hygiene is important." I went to my room. My heart was racing. She had the tools on her. That meant she was likely working on the final pieces tonight, the biggest prizes, the ones she hadn't swapped yet. The necklace, the Star of Eleanor. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, watching the safe camera feed I had installed yesterday on my tablet. At 2 a.m., the library door creaked open. Chloe entered. She wasn't wearing pajamas. She was wearing black. She opened the safe with a speed that told me she had memorized the combination weeks ago. She took out the necklace case. She sat at my desk. She pulled out the prong tool and a small velvet pouch from her pocket. She began to work. She popped the main stone. She dropped it into her pouch. She picked up a replica from the desk, where she must have hidden it earlier, and snapped it into the setting. Click, click. She was fast. Jason taught her well. But she made a mistake. She dropped the real stone. It bounced on the carpet. She cursed, scrambling on her hands and knees to find it. I screenshotted the image, the timestamp, 02:14 a.m. I had the theft on tape. But if I arrested her now, I only recovered the necklace. I wanted the ring. I wanted the emeralds. I wanted everything they had fenced. I needed to let the party happen. I needed to trap Jason and the buyer in the same room with the police. Friday was going to be a very expensive evening, but not for me. The morning sun hit the Star of Eleanor as it lay in its velvet case on the library desk. To the naked eye, the necklace was stunning. It sparkled, it shone. But when I looked closer, without even picking up my loupe, I felt a hollowness in my chest. Stones have a temperature. Diamonds are cold. They pull heat from your skin. This stone felt warm. It was glass. "It looks beautiful, doesn't it?" Chloe said, walking into the room with a steaming cup of tea. She watched me closely, hunting for any sign that I knew about her midnight larceny. "I needs cleaning," I grumbled, pushing the case away. "The fire is dull. Maybe my eyes are finally going, Chloe. I can't see the blue sparkle anymore." Her shoulders relaxed. A small, victorious smile played on her lips. "Don't worry, Uncle Artie. I'll polish it before the party. It will look like $1,000,000. Or 500, I muttered under my breath. "What?" "I said 500 guests," I lied loudly. "I hope you didn't invite 500 guests. I can't handle the noise." Just 20, she laughed, patting my shoulder. Intimate, exclusive, only the people who matter. She left to coordinate with the caterers. I waited until the front door closed, then I went straight to my private phone line. It rang twice. Saul, tell me you have good news. I found it, Artie, Saul's voice crackled, tense and low. The solitaire, the cushion cut with the carbon pinpoint inclusion on the pavilion. It's in a shop in the Diamond District in Manhattan. A guy named Jimmy Gem is trying to flip it fast. Jason sold it to him? I asked. Jason V. pawned it yesterday morning for $10,000 cash. The idiot doesn't know what he had. He thought it was a generic stone. He rushed the sale. $10,000. My wife's ring was worth $300,000 at auction. He sold my heart for a used car. Buy it, Saul, I ordered. Whatever he wants, buy it back. I need that ring in this house by Friday night. It's going to cost you a premium, Artie, Saul warned. Jimmy knows I want it. He smells blood. I don't care. Use the emergency fund. Just get it here. And Saul, bring the paperwork. The bill of sale with Jason's ID on it. I need the chain of custody. You got it, Ace. I'll drive it down myself. I hung up. The physical evidence was secured. Now I just had to survive until Friday. But Chloe wasn't done securing her position. She knew I was sniffing around. She knew I was erratic, so she went on the offensive. That afternoon, my phone started ringing. It was my niece, Sarah, Chloe's mother, calling from Arizona. Arthur, Sarah sounded frantic. I just got off the phone with Chloe. She's really worried about you. Is she? I asked, looking out the window at Chloe in the garden, texting furiously. She says you're hiding jewelry, Sarah said gently. She says you find expensive pieces stuffed in sofa cushions and tissue boxes. She says you told her the government was coming to take them. I gripped the phone. It was the dementia defense, classic isolation tactics, make the victim sound paranoid so that when he reports a theft, the family dismisses it as a symptom. I haven't hidden anything, Sarah, I said firmly. My mind is fine. I know, Uncle, she soothed, clearly not believing me. But maybe it's time to talk about a smaller place. Assisted living isn't what it used to be. Chloe found a brochure for a lovely spot in Boca. Chloe is very helpful, I said, ice in my veins. I'll consider it. I hung up. She had turned my family against me. She had laid the groundwork so that if I accused her on Friday, everyone would assume I was just confused. Friday afternoon arrived with a storm front moving off the coast. Thunder rumbled in the distance, matching the tension inside the house. Caterers were setting up trays of hors d'oeuvres in the parlor. Chloe was barking orders at the staff, acting the lady of the manor. Jason arrived at 5 p.m. He wasn't alone. With him was a tall, thin man in a suit that cost more than my first house. Uncle Artie, Chloe waved me over. This is Mr. Thorne, the buyer Jason told you about. A pleasure, Mr. Stone, Mr. Thorne said, offering a manicured hand. I hear you have exquisite taste. I dabble, I said. Jason tells me you might be willing to part with the entire collection, Thorne said, lowering his voice. For the right price. Cash. I'm willing to listen, I said. The game was set. Thorne wasn't a buyer. He was a shill. He would offer a low-ball price, maybe $2 million for a collection worth $10 million. Chloe would convince me to take it because it was safe. Then they would take the boxes, full of fakes, and pay me. When I tried to deposit the cash or check, it would be fake, or laundered, or disappear. Meanwhile, they would already be selling the real stones Saul hadn't found yet, in Europe. Go get dressed, Uncle Artie, Chloe smiled. The party starts in an hour. Wear your tux. You look so handsome in it.
I walked to my room. I put on my tuxedo. It smelled of lavender and memories of galas with Eleanor. I adjusted my bow tie. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see an old man. I saw the chief appraiser. I reached into my desk drawer. I pulled out my tools, my refractometer, a device that measures how light bends through a stone, a thermal conductivity probe, which can distinguish diamond from glass instantly, and the UV light. I loaded them into my inner jacket pocket. Then I checked my text messages. Saul, in position. Back door unlocked? Me. Yes. Wait for the signal. Saul. What's the signal? Me. Blue fluorescence. I turned off the light. I walked downstairs to the party. The music was playing, the champagne was pouring, and Chloe was wearing my wife's necklace, smiling like she owned the world. She didn't know that tonight the world was going to foreclose on her. The parlor was warm, smelling of lilies and expensive perfume. 20 guests, neighbors, fake investors, and local elites sipped champagne and murmured admiringly at the jewelry cases displayed on the tables. Jason V. was working the room like a politician, pointing out the clarity of stones he had replaced with quartz days ago. He was good, confident. He picked up a bracelet, holding it to the light, spinning a story about Russian czars. Chloe stood near the fireplace, playing the hostess. The star of Eleanor hung around her neck, reflecting the chandelier light. She looked happy. She looked victorious. Mr. Thorne approached me with a contract folder. "Mr. Stone, shall we retire to the study? I have the appraisal figures. We are prepared to offer $3 million for the lot." $3 million, I repeated loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. That's generous for a box of glass. Thorne frowned. "Excuse me." "Patience, Mr. Thorne," I said, tapping my cane on the floor. "We haven't finished the inspection." I walked to the center of the room. Chloe watched me, her smile faltering. "Attention, everyone," I announced. My voice was rusty but commanding. The chatter died down. "Thank you for coming. My grandniece organized this evening to celebrate my late wife's collection and to celebrate honesty in appraisal." Chloe stepped forward, looking nervous. "Uncle Artie, maybe we should save the speeches for after the sale." "Nonsense," I waved her off. "Light is the essence of a gem, isn't it, Jason?" Jason froze mid-sip. "Absolutely, Arthur." "But some lights reveal more than others. Dim the lights." I signaled the waiter near the switch. The room went pitch black. A few guests gasped. I pulled the UV flashlight from my pocket. Click. The violet beam cut through the darkness. It landed squarely on Chloe's neck, on the star of Eleanor. Silence stretched tight as a piano wire. "Fluorescence," I narrated in the dark. "Natural diamonds often glow blue under ultraviolet light. My wife's necklace was famous for it. It glowed like the deep ocean." I moved the beam closer. The stones around Chloe's neck remained stubbornly, dully dark. They absorbed the UV light without a flicker of reaction. "But look at that. Void. Darkness. Because synthetic moissanite doesn't fluoresce, Chloe. And neither does glass." "The lights!" Chloe shrieked. "Turn on the lights. He's senile. He's trying to scare people." The lights flared back on. Guests blinked, dazzled. Chloe stood clutching her neck, her face flushed with panic and rage. "It's just a cleaning issue," she stammered, looking at Jason for help. We polished them with a new compound. It blocked the light." "Polish doesn't block physics, Chloe," I said, walking toward the display table where Jason stood guarding the engagement rings. I reached for my thermal probe. It's a pen-sized device with a copper tip. You touch it to a stone. If it beeps once, it's metal. If it beeps fast, it's diamond. If it stays silent, it's fake. "Jason," I said, "let's check the solitaire, the one Eleanor wore every day." I reached for the ring box. Jason slammed his hand down over the case. "Don't touch it, Arthur. Your hands are shaking. You'll drop it." "I might drop it," I agreed, "but the probe won't miss." I shoved the probe past his hand and touched the tip to the large cushion-cut stone. The air held its breath. Silence. No beep. No green light. "Stone cold dead," I announced. "That's not diamond. That's a high-grade cubic zirconia, worth about $50 on eBay." "This is ridiculous," Thorne shouted, trying to salvage the con.
"The man is clearly confused. We vetted these stones. I verified them myself." "Did you?" I turned on him. "With what? Your eyes? Or with the inventory list Jason forged?" I looked at the crowd. "Every piece in this room is fake," I said, "swapped out over the last 3 months by my niece and her bench jeweler boyfriend." "That's slander!" Jason roared. He lunged at me. "You old fool! You hid the real ones! You're framing us because you hate that we're young!" He grabbed my lapel. He was going to hit me. He thought he could bully an old man into silence. But the back door to the kitchen swung open. "Get your hands off him, son!" a raspy voice barked. Saul stepped into the parlor. He was wearing a trench coat and a fedora, looking like a noir detective who got lost in the suburbs. But behind him, filling the doorway, were 2 uniformed officers from the Stamford Police Department. "Saul?" I smiled. "Did you bring the purchase?" "Right here," Saul said, holding up a small sealed evidence bag. Inside, flashing brilliant fire even in the plastic, was Eleanor's real engagement ring. "Bought it this morning from Jimmy Gem on 47th Street, Saul announced to the room. "Jimmy talks fast when the cops show him a warrant for fencing stolen goods. He says a guy matching your description sold it to him on Tuesday, Jason." Saul tossed a printout of a security photo onto the floor. It showed Jason at the pawn counter in New York, counting cash. Jason released my lapel. He backed away, hitting the display table. A case of fake emeralds crashed to the floor. Chloe looked at the photo. She looked at the ring in the bag. She looked at me. "You knew?" she whispered. "You knew the whole time?" "I'm a gemologist, Chloe," I said, adjusting my bow tie. "I noticed the swamp the minute you put it in the safe. I have a camera in the jewelry box." "Camera?" Her eyes went wide. I pulled my phone out. I tapped the screen. The video of her kneeling in the dark at 2 a.m. played for the front row guests. Pop, swap, drop. "I suggest you run," Thorne muttered to Jason, backing toward the patio doors. "Nobody's running," one of the officers said, stepping forward. "Mr. Jason Vanchetti, Miss Chloe Stone, we have warrants for grand larceny and trafficking in counterfeit goods." The party was over. The appraisal was finished, and the final value of their scheme was 0. The scene devolved into the kind of chaotic quiet that followed a structural collapse. Jason Vanchetti didn't fight. He was a bench jeweler, not a brawler. When the officer placed a hand on his shoulder, Jason slumped, his knees hitting the hardwood floor with a hollow thud. "It wasn't my idea," he blubbered, looking up at the police. "She made me do it. She said the old man was dying anyway. She said nobody would know until the estate sale." "You coward!" Chloe screamed. She stood by the fireplace, her face a ruined mascara and fury. "Miss Stone," the officer said, pulling Chloe's arms behind her back, "you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." Mr. Thorne, the fake buyer, tried to sidle toward the foyer during the domestic dispute. He buttoned his jacket, affecting an air of offended dignity. "I am merely a prospective investor," he announced to the room at large. "I had no knowledge of the provenance of these items. I was misled." "Sit down, Thorne," Saul growled from the doorway. "We tracked your wire transfer from Jason's shell account yesterday. You're not an investor. You're the wash cycle for the money laundering. 5% fee, right?" Thorne stopped. He looked at the police sergeant, who nodded grimly. Thorne sat down on the nearest antique chair, deflated. I watched it all from my spot near the display table. I felt tired. 74 years old is too much for drama. My hip ached where I had leaned on the cane too long. As they led Chloe past me, she stopped. She dug her heels into my Persian rug. "Uncle Artie," she wept, her voice cracking, "please, think about what you're doing. I'm family. Mom will be devastated. Just tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them I had permission to borrow the stones."
I looked at her. I looked at the star of Eleanor hanging around her neck, a piece of glass in a setting that had rested on the throat of the finest woman I ever knew. "Permission?" I asked softly. "You didn't ask for permission, Chloe. You pried open the prongs of your aunt's engagement ring. You scratched the platinum. You violated the metal." "I needed the money," she sobbed. "For my brand, for my followers. I was going to pay you back once I launched the line." "There is no line," I said, "just a circle of lies. You think you're a gem, Chloe, but you put yourself under the loop and all I see are fractures. You're flawed, and no amount of polish fixes internal stress cracks." "Get her out of here," I signaled the officer. They dragged her out. The blue and red lights of the squad cars flashed through the bay windows, illuminating the stunned faces of the guests. My neighbors were whispering, horrified but entertained. This would be the talk of the country club for a decade. "Show's over, folks," Saul announced, waving his fedora. "The bar is closed. Police need to secure the scene." The guests filed out quickly, leaving their half-drunk champagne and canapes. The police taped off the library and the safe. They cataloged the fake jewelry. Evidence bags piled up on the dining table like loot from a heist movie. An hour later, the house was silent. The police had taken the suspects away for booking. Saul and I sat in the parlor. I held the evidence bag containing Eleanor's ring, the real one. "You okay, Ace?" Saul asked, pouring 2 fingers of my best scotch into crystal tumblers. "I'm tired, Saul," I admitted, taking the glass. "She was my brother's granddaughter. I changed her diapers once." "People change," Saul shrugged. "Carbon changes too. Put it under heat and pressure, it becomes a diamond. Put a kid under pressure of social media and greed, sometimes they turn into coal." "Or glass," I murmured. I looked at the ring. The central stone fired brilliance even in the dim light. It was real. It was permanent. "Did you get the others?" I asked. "Most of them," Saul nodded. "Jimmy Gem gave up the other fences. The rubies are in the safe in Jersey. The emeralds were sold to a private collector in Boston, but we have the transaction trail. You'll get 80% of it back, Artie. The rest, well, call it a loss." "The money doesn't matter," I said. "I have enough money. I wanted the history back." My phone rang. It was my niece, Sarah, Chloe's mother. The news had traveled fast. I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to explain why her daughter was sitting in a holding cell wearing a prom dress. That conversation could wait until morning. Saul finished his drink. "I gotta head back to the city. My wife thinks I'm at a poker game." "Thanks, Saul," I said. "Send me the bill." "On the house," Saul smiled, putting on his hat. "Seeing Jason V. cry in front of his fake investor, that was payment enough. The look on his face when you pulled out the thermal probe, beautiful." He left. I locked the front door. I set the alarm. I walked back into the library. The safe was open, stripped by the police for evidence processing. The velvet trays were empty. The portrait of Eleanor looked down at me. She seemed relieved. I sat at my desk. I took the ring out of the bag. I picked up my loupe one last time. I focused on the stone. I found the inclusion, the tiny carbon spot on the pavilion facet that identified it as mine. It was a flaw, a birthmark, but it proved it was real. "Authentic," I whispered. Chloe wanted perfection. She wanted the glitz without the substance. She didn't understand that it's the flaws that make a thing real. It's the history. I put the ring in my pocket. I wouldn't put it back in the safe, not yet. I needed to feel the weight of it. I walked to the window and looked out at the dark driveway where the Mercedes used to be. The quiet wasn't lonely tonight. It was safe. I had cleaned house. I had removed the inclusions. But the night wasn't over. There was one final piece of business. I picked up my tablet. I logged into Instagram. Chloe's profile was still active. "Living my best life," the bio read. Her last post was a photo of the necklace from 2 hours ago. Caption, "Heirloom vibes, #blessed." I smiled grimly. I tapped the comment button. Provenance update. The stone is glass. The rarer is in custody. Hashtag busted. I posted it. Then I deleted the app. Some facets you polish, some you cut away, and tonight I had cut the roughest stone of all. The trial was short. Jason V. turned state witness faster than a diamond splits along its cleavage plane. He testified that Chloe had approached him with the plan 6 months ago, leveraging her access to my home to fund their lifestyle brand. The forensic evidence from the prong opener tools found in her makeup bag sealed the deal. Chloe pled guilty to grand larceny and insurance fraud. The judge, a woman who wore a modest pearl necklace, was not impressed by Chloe's attempt to use her social media anxiety as a defense. Vanity is not a mental illness, Miss Stone. It is a choice. Chloe was sentenced to 4 years in a minimum security facility in Danbury. Her Instagram account was deactivated. Her followers moved on to the next shiny thing within a week. That's the thing about brilliance without substance. It fades the moment you turn off the ring light. The hardest part wasn't the legal battle. It was the phone call with my niece, Sarah. She pried for an hour. She accused me of being cruel. She asked why I couldn't just handle it within the family. I did handle it within the family, Sarah. I stopped your daughter from becoming a career criminal. If she had gotten away with this, what was next? Stealing from her friends? From you? Sarah hung up on me. We haven't spoken since. The family tree has been pruned. It hurts like cutting a branch, but sometimes pruning is necessary for the health of the tree. I retrieved about 90% of the collection. The rest is gone, scattered into private safes of unscrupulous buyers. I accepted the insurance check for the missing pieces, but I didn't replace them. I realized I didn't want the burden anymore. Last week, I met with the curators of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I donated the entire collection, including the Star of Eleanor. It will be displayed in the gemology wing under high-security glass, where thousands of people can see the fire inside those stones. They named the exhibit the Eleanor Stone Legacy. I only kept one thing. I sit on my porch now, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The arthritis in my hands is bad today, but I don't mind. I spin the solitaire engagement ring between my fingers. The carbon inclusion winks at me. I'm 75 years old. I've spent my life grading clarity, color, and cut. I've judged the value of things based on Rappaport sheets and market trends. But in the end, I learned that value isn't about what a thing is worth in dollars. It's about what it represents. Chloe saw a rock to be sold. I saw a promise kept. The house is quiet again, but it's a peaceful quiet. I don't need a housemate. I have my memories, and they are genuine. I have Saul, who comes over on Thursdays to play chess and complain about the pawn business. "You miss the game, Ace?" Saul asked last week, moving his rook. "I miss the stones," I admitted, "but I don't miss the pressure." "Better an honest piece of coal than a fake diamond," Saul laughed. "Amen," I said. For everyone watching, check your valuables, audit your safes, but more importantly, audit the people you let into your life. Real family isn't about DNA, it's about loyalty, it's about clarity. If someone in your circle looks flawless on the surface, but feels wrong under the light, get your loupe. Look closer. You might find a fake. I'm Arthur Stone. The collection is safe, and my eyes are wide open. This is John Vengeance. If you appreciate the difference between a real gem and a piece of glass, polish that like button and subscribe. Share this story with anyone who needs a lesson in appraisal. Stay authentic, stay sharp, and never let them swap your shine.